Just because a person speaks your language is not necessarily that they share your ethnicity or your ethnocultural heritage. And while driving down wages and putting a strain on the social system is certainly a huge symptom of mass migration, let alone at the degree that Canada has experienced it, one of the side effects of all of this is mass demographic change as well. And here on this program, what we try to do is foster healthy discussion of these sorts of issues because, frankly, Canadians are taking notice and they're not given a moderate, safe place, so to speak, to discuss these sorts of things. So, Noah, let's throw up that chart really quickly. This is some census data over here looking at the decline of the European Canadian people who identified, if you will, as European Canadian. Over the past several years, you see, as recently as 1971, 96.3% of Canadians identifying as European Canadian. 2016 is 53% on this census. I will say, though, Peter, that according to StatsCan information elsewhere, we're teetering somewhere between 70 and 74% right now, probably about the 72% mark. But this is a very, very fast rate of change. In fact, it is the quickest rate of ethnic change in the country, in the world, rather, in the Western world. And what I worry about, and this is where I want to bring up some of what Maxime Bernier is going on, of course, the leader of this new right-wing party. He tweeted out the other day, what happens to a country that is run with identity politics? Our American neighbors are facing the same question. Watch this exchange, and he lists a change with Tucker Carlson. I don't know that we'll get into it right now, that specific change, but he seems to suggest that, identity politics, we can just do away with it. There is this utopia where everyone, a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, to quote Justin Trudeau. And that identity politics is some sort of leftist, fictitious, manufactured sort of ploy at dividing and conquering the people. But my question to you is, in an increasingly multicultural state where polarization seems to be the trend as opposed to the opposite, do you think that a Canada without identity politics is one feasible? And number two, do you think that a Canada with identity politics will inevitably give rise to European Canadian identity?
The answer is it's inevitable that will happen, Faith. Demography is destiny in politics, and that's the case even when you have, when America was overwhelmingly white, as it was until 1970, until the Immigration Act kicked in. Even still, you saw ethnic patterns develop in politics, and people voted that they're very, very reluctant to change. The classic book on that was written by Kevin Phillips. It was called The Emerging Republican Majority, which was published in 1968, just after Nixon won. And he argued there was a migration into the Republican Party of ethnic groups, who were alienated from the Democrats, because Democrats were basically a left-wing, in many respects, anti-Christian party, and the conservative working class didn't like that. So that was going on even within a predominantly white society, but it's much more intensified when you have visible minorities. Basically what happens Lee Kuan Yew said this famously, the creator of modern Singapore. He said, if you have a multi-ethnic society, all elections become essentially referendums on which race you belong to, which team you're on.
If this is your first night at Fight Club, you have to fight.
We were like, oh.
Brothers be ballin', rich if you need me, call. I open fire on motherfuckers and murder them all.